So the new version that installed the actual build of the software, which is updating every day, a couple of times. In the new version, we're also supporting audio within the machine. So in this case, we can also use a multi-viewer in order to determine which source you want to listen on the HDMI stream, feeding the multi-viewer actually. And therefore, you just click on the tile over here, say, okay, what is the audio source on my multi-viewer? Any of those. And you can determine, say, okay, the audio source on this multi-viewer number 1 is supposed to be any of my cross points over here, or even my built-in audio mixer. So here I can tell the system, you know what, I want to hear my clip players directly, or I want to hear everything that comes from that scene over here. And as even though when I go into the scene, saying I'm applying a scene to that, and confirm OK, and you see that small speaker symbol, that this is the Kairos, which is now determine what is the audio source to my machine. So now here I have a gain value. I can shuffle my channels around, so that's one is not on one, so I can, this is typically the default. What is the layout of the 16 sources within that stream, which I can also shuffle around. I can change the gain of those 16 channels in here. By default, they're all on 0 decibel peak meter. The volume in general, I can set over here, and I can apply also an audio delay to the machine. Maximum value is in milliseconds, is 2000 milliseconds. What I can apply is an audio delay to it. Well, there's also a new thing in here. It's the tab called the audio mixer. And here's kind of a cool view though, what we can do on this audio mixer, saying I can determine on my 16 tracks, what are the sources on these channels? What is the gain on these channels, on the internal source? I can shuffle the channels around of the source material. I can turn the channel on and off like this, and I can set the volume of the individual channel and have a master volume at the far right side over here. Right now I have applied now 16 cross point sources to play back, and you see some preview peak metering over here to see what the signals are. In another menu, I can also then adjust what is the peak metering, where's the green area, when do I go to the yellow areas, so the warning kind of thing, and where we're starting with red. So typically red starts at 0 decibel in the audio world. What more? I promised that I show you some new icons also within the working area. So now we have this path linear icon over here and the path animation. Path animation I cannot show at this moment, but path linear I could show, saying if I go to a layer 1 over here, where right now I'm in a scene called main Kairos, and turn this thing on. For you, nothing is it's been visible here, but if I now add the effect for path linear over here and enable the effect, now you get a graphical explanation of what the effect looks like. So right now this layer would push to the right hand side, and there's what you see here also in these factors. But I can also grab this thing, saying, you know what, I want to push this thing to the upper right corner, over here to any other location, change the scale of that thing. Let's say I want to move it into that direction from here on. So that's the new thing what we have in the GUI for the path linear settings. And also you can determine now acceleration, deceleration path. So 0 would be a linear acceleration, so it would be a linear movement. And actually that would be the perfect move in, move out, ease in, ease out, when you're on 50% of size, where you have perfect acceleration to the maximum spot and perfect deceleration to the minimum spot. Set this all back to 0 and delete the effect. So these are new items which we are going to release with the next software version. Also, I want to introduce now again the way how this has changed in my transitions, and I will build these transitions now from scratch. I want to erase this thingy here, just to let you see how does it look like at this moment when we go into the live view over here. So this is my program, my preview, some preset tiles over here, and I have a full other load over here where I see my clip layers. And this is what I will show you also later on when we go into the clip list modes. I will introduce that to you as well. Coming back to my multi-view 1 layout over here, and actually the only thing what we're interested in is actually the main screen over here. So we'll push the layout into be a full screen view over here in order to show you how to run those transitions over here. Now we'll build a transition with that beam, what I was introducing before the lunch break. And on the side, I will also install the software already on my other computer here. And let's go into the RAM recorder again, fetch all the clips. So that's this energy beam thing, which is not loaded into any of my channels, but I will use this in order to create a graphical effect over here. Now going to my transitions, and you see there's an AB transition, which I determined. I applied the light beam to it. And in the light beam, when I'm going to my edit of this dialog, I determine what is the fill signal, which contains the key also. I can have a separate key as a separate clip. I can apply an inversion on and off. And what's very important, and I hope we can see that later on in the streaming result, that we can determine the blend mode if we're keying this thing linear, multiplicative, or if we're keying this thing additive, which is extremely important is when we're doing those kind of lens flare effects and when you have those kind of highlights and transparencies, which most of the cases we see in TV today is just freaking wrong because they're all doing this multiplicative, and it's not supposed to be multiplicative, to be honest. Anyway, so this is the only thing what I did. I created a new effect, and I'm using the energy beam thing here to be the clip of it. Now, what is new here? Saying, okay, I want to use the light beam on this effect over here. But in the same transition, I also want to use a mix transition on top of that. So I just take this mix here and drag it into the same position and pop it in here. Actually, I did it the wrong way around. Let me erase this thing again. So the mix, first of all, put the mix in, and then put the light beam in. Light beam, and drag this one in here. And now when I'm running this effect here, and I'm running this in 121 frames, that's the length of the animation. And I'm running this effect now with a fader arm, and let you see what's going to happen here. I'm doing this on my next computer over here on the other side, and let you see what is the live view for that. Go into the live view over here, and now I'm dragging that fader arm for this transition, and then you see how I'm running this effect all across the screen. But you see, while I'm doing this, that I also see the transparency in the background. To make this a little more obvious, actually, I will go into my scenes, and I will pick as a background cross-point signal, I will pick something like a color bar. So input number 1 is good to go. And going back to my live view, and I drag this thing again to make it really obvious that you see this transparency applied to the background, because I'm doing a mix transition in the background all time long. Actually, what I want to avoid is I want to run my background transition by the time that this energy beam graphic is fully covering my background, so almost fully covering my background at this location, right where I am at this moment. And when I now look into my transitions, you see this is how I'm treating the light beam clip, and this is how I'm treating the mix. So I'm taking this over the entire length of my transition, but actually here is where my progress is of my transition. Actually, I want to start my background mix at this point. So I click here on this background marker, say I want to start my transition over here at this location. So I'm doing a graphical editing. So I'm not saying counting down frames and whatnot. So now I'm continuing this with the fader arm until I see that my transition, my light beam is releasing the background. So I'm switching you back into the live view. So I'm continuing this fader movement and continue to keep going. So here is the point where I need to be done with my background transition. So I'm checking this out, saying, okay, that's the progress until here. So go to that slider again, the far right end, and see there's other marker coming up. So I want to be finished over here, right? So that is supposed to be my transition in total. Now I'm bringing this back and start with my transition over here, and I'm doing it very slowly again. So run this transition, picking it on, and then you see there's no transparency in the background. There's no transition coming up whatsoever. I just simply start my transition over here, and here it's been finished. Now, when I'm splitting this multi-view again, saying I want to have a layout where I'm seeing a quad split, that's good enough. Seeing this main thing in here, and on this side I want to put in an effects input of my secondary, my third GUI actually, put that one in. This is obsolete actually, and this one's obsolete too. And by the way, what we can do as well, when I go into the move selection over here in my workspace, so I can click on this window over here. Now hit the control key and click on this one again, and then I can drag both images at the same time. So I can mark them up at the same time and run them from here to reposition those simultaneously. So I can also go in here, say I want to drag this over here manually, and I want to drag this to any other location, or even though say I want to have this Y segment, this Y location, just mark this up, copying it, use this one and paste this in here. That's the same result. I'm going to the live view again. So you have the two screens, and now I want to show you on this area here, this transition segment, and activate this so you see both screens at the same time. And now I'm using that fader arm again and run this all across the screen. So it's hard for you guys to see that, but here that's what I'm moving, this fader arm here. And you see where's the segment. I know it's hard to see, but you see now here's the progress bar coming up over here on this side. And just seeing in this area now, here's my background dissolve happening. And it's full graphic editing, what I'm doing here. And running this in regular speed, and run this in auto trans, and I'm done. Hope this all makes sense for you guys. Just to get back to my transition area over here, that is the area where I do the background mix, and that's the old progress for my replay wipe. Now, again, coming back to my live view, and want to put in the full screen image again, and put this one on. And I will now go back to the transition of my light beam, and I hope we can see what's really the difference when I go into edit mode and to change this additive into multiplicative. Okay, confirm, and going back, and I'll run this transition again, and I hope we see that in a certain element on a certain position. I know it's tough to see. I probably have to replace my background. Let's go with, probably it's good to see them when I'm running this on my color bars. I guess it's easier to see in the color bars, yes. But instead of using that color bars here, I will use my internal color bars. It's not moving that much, so it's easier to track. Or probably the color circle actually, and run this again. Run this in one direction, and I'll run it again. And now you can probably see this black fringes going around these elements here. You see the black, and see this black surrounding over these dots, over these dots, over these dots. You see this black area over here, over here. And that is due to a reason when we're doing this as a linear key, as a multiplicative element. And this is more pure mathematics. So if the key signal is transparency, means let's say it's not even 1, it's below 1, so 0.5. And the fill signal in this area is also 0.5. And you multiply this, the result is even lower. That's this 0.25 as a result. So that means in the edge of the key signal, I'm looking more and more to the foreground fill, which is in that area black, and that's this black fringing what you see surrounding the signal. So this here, since this is a light flare kind of an effect, is supposed to be keyed additive. So it means you take the key signal to cut a hole into the background, but then you're adding everything what is higher than 0 level in chrominance and luminance, and add this from the foreground signal to the background. Now when I'm changing this here, I'm going to my effect on the other computer over here, and I'm changing this light beam in edit mode and changing this into additive. And now you see what is the difference. Did you see that? Multiplicative is this. Additive is this, which is eliminating and eliminating the black fringing, and that you see all the little details adding to the background signal, right? With all the light flare and glows and whatnot, makes it way more elegant to look at. I'll run this again from scratch, real speed, bam. I guess this is clear hopefully now, so that's what we're doing. This is the new way how we're styling this out. We still have the way we did it before, so we have the multiple transitions in here. And again, I can now combine multiple transition times inside the same block. So I can even add another wipe into it and say, while I'm doing the replay wipe, I want to wipe as well, anything. That's an artificial kind of thing what we're talking about when we're dealing with those programs as a technical director. Going back into my layout, and I will change the layout back into my main screen, what I'm using typically here. Okay, now the next thing I want to introduce, things which you haven't explored yet, is when we're talking about canvas style and canvas size. Right now, the scene settings, what I'm having for this guy here, it's just straightforward. It's 90, 20, 10, 80. And I haven't enabled my advanced resolution settings. But what I can do by checking this box here, to activate these two controls, and all of a sudden my resolution is in 4K, or I can make this in any kind of an odd size, to make it even very small in this resolution, no matter what is the display size. Probably it's very thin, so I make this very flat over here and make it even smaller, so like a stadium banner, and use this to be my canvas size of my working area. And that's what I'm spitting out later on as well. What I want to introduce right now is a situation where we had the task to build a so-called 32 by 9. So it's 3,840 by 1080. So you can also go in here, just type in the box and type in the value numerically like that. Okay, for this scene, doesn't really matter actually. I turn this off, don't need this any longer. I will show you a scene which I built when I find it. It's somewhere, not here, it's in here, my widescreen area over here. So that's what we consider the widescreen. So inside that widescreen, you see advanced settings are enabled. And this is my resolution in X, and that's my resolution in Y. Now going to my multi-viewer layout, and I want to apply to my multi-viewer 1 a user preset which I've called widescreen, like this. And this is how it looks like within the multi-viewer itself. So this is my canvas size, 32 by 9 over here. And now we'll use my other GUI on the other side here to let you see how I'm dealing with that. So actually this was in my settings over here, widescreen. So that's how we're looking at this in the working area. And when I'm going to my controls in the upper right corner over here, saying I want to release my, so I'm handling this section here now and changing my resolutions. So saying my X resolution should be modified so it's live rendered into the machine and showing me the effects and how it is supposed to work in this area. and what it does. So at this moment, I need to skip to another clip player section here, and I want to add something into it, which is this one. So it fits the screen here, because I had a clip in here which was not really scaling into right geometry in here. Now coming back from here into that screen area over here. Now going to my scene settings again. That's how it looks like, and this was just a slider what I just used in order to treat my X resolution, what you were seeing in my multi-view settings. Now, in the upper left corner, where we see we have all our inserts, so we were inserting already a new directory, we can insert a new scene, we can insert a new layer, and what is another cool feature in here, we can insert also layer groups. Layer groups for that instance, for that reason, when I'm going into my control history live view, you see there's a left box over here, there's a center box over here, and there's a right box on that side over here. Now, I use this for left, and the left box contains a text element, a frame element, and a picture-in-picture element. So that's the frame element outside surrounding the picture-in-picture, the text object, and the pip itself, which is living in here. And the same for the center, and the same for the right box. So this is the so-called insert layer group. So that's the layer group, and that's the content within that group. Now, let's say for whatever reason, the director insists that the text object is not living the way it is right now, so it should be a little smaller and should be inside the image for whatever reason. But just that you can see what are the modifiers I have in here. And to do so, I will go into the scene over here on my left object, picking the text object over here, and make sure that I transform this object. So you see my highlight over here, that's the cutout of the element with my original segment, rotation angle, and that's the position scale of that layer. When I'm doing the same thing in this GUI over here, and I use my other GUI on the side, and I highlight this object, and you will see also how this has been represented down here. So the cursor on the other element now will fetch this element in here and just drag it across the screen, make it smaller, make it bigger, whatever I do. So here, using this object and just drag it around. So I want to make it a little smaller. So take this block down here, make it a little smaller, saying, okay, that's the size the director wants to have. And now position it in the upper left corner. That's pretty much it. Doing the same thing for my center element. Also here, make this a little smaller. Yeah, good enough. Just eye matching and just dragging the object center screen somewhere over here. And I do the exact same thing on the right box, just for the graphics. Make this piece a little smaller and just dragging it in the upper right corner. Good enough. And now the director tells me, you know, that's good to go. But typically the way how you would build this in a generic ME switcher, you would have the left portion of that thing here, let's say mirroring that would be my ME1, so to speak. And this right portion would be my ME2 or whatever other ME. And I will stitch it together just to make it look like this is a 32:9 canvas. But here I was setting up already the scene size is for me already on 3840. So for me, that is a canvas I'm playing on. And I can treat all my objects the way I would be on a 4x3 or 60:9 or whatever segment. So what I'm doing now is, instead of treating the individual segments like the text objects, I'm taking the entire left box, so to speak. Going over here, and I'll pick this on my other computer, taking the left box, so we see it also here in the preview screen. Now I'll go inside the box saying I want to push this around, and I move it just right over here. So I can, it's really tough. So there's a distance of over 3 meters what I'm dealing with here. And I'm using the right box. So I'm clicking on the right box over here. And I'll use that segment and use this one and just push it over here. And as you can see, so even though saying I want to take the center box again and use the layer group from the center box, move all the objects right across the screen. So that's not rocket science. It's just simply saying I have these layers, I have a layer group, I have this content in the layer, and so on and so on. It's a pretty straightforward operation what I'm doing. The way how I was colorizing the frames actually over here is just like going into the frame, and all of those frames, they have a YUV correction. I could have done this with RGB as well, and then I just slightly spin the UV rotation from the original point and applied some luminance gamma gain to that. And the same over here, just a slight different rotation to that one and a slight different rotation to that one, just to have this different colorized frames over these objects over here. Right, so they're all using the same frame. I hope this makes sense to you guys. Need to loop this beast here. Any questions about this canvas size thing? Not yet, I know, but what if, let's say, forget about these two screens down here. Let me erase this here for a moment. Let me not totally distracted. This is the screen I'm having, and this I want to move in position further down screen over here and see my live view. So you see inside my multi-viewer only that one widescreen thing, widescreen element. But what if I need to feed this into two projectors over here? So typically in a projector you would not send twice 16:9, you would send probably something like a 15:9, because you need some area for edge blending, and so the total width wouldn't be 3840, would be more like 3700 or something like this, and the rest with the pixel you would use and play with in the edge blending area. Also, the edge blending typically is done using projector, but also Kairos can take this over and do the edge blending and provide the edge blending from over here. Now, what I would do in terms of how to spit this out to a projector or to a monitor wall, if it's LED segment or whatnot, then I wouldn't need the edge blending. So I go to my aux outputs over here and saying, I'm going to use my out number 9 for whatever reason. And on out number 9, I want to see my scenes from my MISC widescreen. Now you see on this output over here, I can apply the audio to the output, blah, 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 with the tele routes and the clean mask. But here in my advanced settings, it right now will do a so-called auto fit. So it would squeeze the 32:9 into a 60:9 environment. Now, so to speak, coming back to my layout over here, this widescreen thing, and put a quad split on again, saying in this lower left segment here, I will put in my aux 9. There we can see what's going on. aux 9. And now you see, when I go into the live view, the system will provide here my full widescreen version, and it squeezes in, since auto fit is enabled, to squeeze in the 32:9 into the 16:9 output. That's not what I want to do. What I want to do in my aux bus, saying, okay, on my aux 9, I'm going to my advanced settings and saying, disable the auto fit. And I see this is actually the action area which I'm now putting into the screen to my output number 9, the left part of it. So I would take aux 10 to put in the right part. But what I can do also saying, you know what, this is how I can pan and tilt and zoom my signal onto my output. Which element do I want to have on this output number 9? Now, the way how this look like when we're going into to monitor this over now 3 computers, 1 sec, going to my aux 9 over here, then you see the gray rusted scenario in my live view. So you see that over here, what I'm doing, you see the screen up here, and now I will go in saying, this is my aux 9 down here, and in my next GUI, I will use now that aux9 control in order to pan and tilt this element. And then you see how this goes along what I'm feeding out to this output, right? So even more, what you can do, other controls in here and apply other controls to that. We go to the advanced settings, saying still we have the dissolve effects and whatnot. We have the auto fit. We can make a mapping offset over here, so we can drive this from over here as well. I can have a zoom factor, so I want to zoom my element into that thing here. Then I can pan and tilt around with that thing. So that's what I'm doing in here, and I'll show you how that's been affected in my live view when I'm going to my controls on the next computer and drag this around from over here, so I can really go exactly into details. And this is the area what I want to fit into. This is the area I want to zoom to, zooming this in or zooming this out, full zoom in like this, and saying the only thing what I want to see is actually this box for whatever reason. And I can drag this thing around, so I want to have this box on the output. That's what I want to scale to. So all of this all been done post stream on the output only. It's not affecting my scene itself. As you can see, the scene here doesn't change at all. Okay, put this back to default, auto fit, and put this here into 100% over here. And then I can simply drag this along the screen. And this would be my advanced settings for the canvas control. Now, on top of that, if I need to apply the soft edge to my output, I can go to the aux straight over here, saying, you know what, on this aux bus, I want to apply an effect. I want to apply the cropping to it. And on cropping, it's not only that we can crop the thing, that's pretty simple. I can also go in and say, you know what, this crop edge here needs to have a softness. So I can have an overall softness to my element, or I can have individual softness to these elements over here. So shrinking this down for a little bit, we can see all the controls here. And I need to apply this also now on my secondary screen. Give me a sec. So I'm preparing all of these elements also on the other screen that we can see what we're talking about. And now we're coming back to the live view again. So now you see in this control here, what you see on that slider, also you see on that slider is the same thing. When I control the slider here, I actually control that crop edge on the right hand side over here. And when I'm doing so, I'm going to that control and you see how am I affecting my crop only on that output. Now when I increase the softness value over here, that's an overall softness on all my edges at the same time. Or I can go into my so-called advanced settings on this widescreen element, bring this down, enable this, say I want to have no global softness, then I can activate these controls. Say I want to have the softness only on the right edge over here. And when I increase that slider on my output, and this is how it looks like in the live view. So right, it's a hard edge at this moment. Now I'm increasing just for the right edge, so wrong one, on the right edge, I'm increasing the softness parameter. So here I can do the edge blending and apply the edge blending also straight on my output. Right? I hope this all makes sense for you guys. So this is what we can do on all of these different elements over here. Now coming back to my layout and switch my layout back into that view over here. And in my scenes, I will set up my Kairos thing here again. Studio 1, 2, swap this around. Then we have this screen and we see the live view looks like that. Another cool feature in here, what we saw before in the audio mixer over here. So see my tracks. I can also put in my audio bars into that screen, saying on this tile only, I want to put in, I want to put in my audio bar channels. So 1 to maximum 16 in here, but here we have to do some massaging also. Audio bar channels, so put in 2 bars on the left hand side, where I can reposition, where I can also change things and apply this to all of my tiles, where I can also then define later on my color space for the segments when it's turning red, when it's yellow, and when it's green. So we see that now on the live view element over here. So you see that segment coming up here, and I'm switching now to another cross point. And then you see also how it's been indicated within the machine. Right. So now every cross point on my scene called main Kairos will be automatically then routed to that HDMI output, but I can listen right now to my signal, or I can just treating it up and picking it up from my aux outputs. Symbolization here that this is main Kairos is the scene where I'm getting my audio from right now to release it to the HDMI signal. Okay, now we have seen various things regarding the controls over here. And the add-ons, what we're going to see in the new software version. What is in the actual version already? Different so-called behavior modes for the swap functionality, what we see down here. Now, to make it kind of simple, let's put it this way, let me disable this here, and I'm going to this background crosspoint. Let's consider saying this is a rundown. So all these elements which I have applied into it in source options are mimicking what is the rundown of my program. That could be single sources, that could be entire scenes, that could be everything. Internal sources, external sources, effects inputs, RAM recorded channels, whatnot, anything. So the behavior right now for the scene main brackets Kairos, we're looking at the advanced settings, and this is also in the release what you guys have in the actual release. That's already part of it. I skipped that part before because I have to explain it in a little more detail. Right now, the behavior for the program preset mode is the so-called swap mode. Means when I now hit the cut button or the order button, the order transition for the background, the thing will do just a simple swap. So it does like this, right? And I have to set up already my next screen over here that you guys see that later on. Showing this, okay. Flip. Now, what I will do then next is I simply go into my main Kairos and I will do a background auto cut or auto transition, or even use the control panel, do it from the control panel, either way. I will do it then from the control panel, actually over here from this guy. Now saying I want to go in and turn this scene mode from swap into a so-called next mode. Right. Now when we go back again into the layout, and here in the layout, I will put in again the quad split thing, and over here I will put in the effects NDI GUI into it, and in my GUI I'm gonna launch this transition thing here. There's too much stuff. Hell. There's so much things I need to do. That doesn't make sense. So you're gonna see this one. I will have to explain it, and you're gonna just follow it up. not having enough screens here. Okay, so what I will do next, so this thing is set into a so-called next mode, program preset mode next. And what I'm going to do is I will do in the background this type of transition. And I will simply do the cut or the auto transition over here. And you're going to follow up what's happening to the crossbar element. Now, coming to my scenes over here, I'll go into the live view that you see what's going on. Going to my layout over here, that's what you see, going to the live view. And remember, I'm on black on program bus. And actually, I should change this here. Bring this back here, make this main Kairos and preview, look at preview, main Kairos, and enable the preview flag is enabled, and put the GUI in here. Okay, delete this guy, don't need this. So this guy, I want to change and move it center. Now, coming back, and you see, and we're going to the live view now. Program on black. The scene itself is on next mode, swap next mode. And the preset crosspoint signal is actually right now, it's color A. Right? And so the next thing I'm going to do is just a simple, transition, background cut or auto transition. So I could do this from here, or I could do this from the transition area down here, cut or auto, or use the lever arm, either way. That would be things that controls what I'm doing. And you guys see what's happening here in the screen, especially what happens down here. So when I'm going to follow up my transition element over here, and I'm using my cut, you see it's auto advancing. So it takes this to air and it's auto advancing the preset side. Even though I'm doing an auto transition, I'm doing the auto trans, and it's auto advancing the next cross point, and the next, and the next, and the next, and the next, and keep going. So now the director is screaming at me saying, okay, this is not meant to be here, I don't need to see okay, so I go to my scenes menu over here. So this white screen is an element which is not ready yet, or it's not supposed to be here. So I simply say, okay, the next element is Kairos. So simply preset another cross point. So see that I simply preset another cross point here, and I take the next scene to air. And you see it also in look ahead preview, that's my Kairos scene over here. So I take this to air with cut or with auto over here, and take this. So it's my breaking news, I cut the breaking news to air like this. Or I even say I want to do a replay wipe to my next scene over here. Let's come back to that. Let's say I want to replay wipe to the next element, or even though saying let's find another cross point, saying what we have in here. This one. I'd say this is also a good example for additive type of keying. And I replay wipe to the next one. So you see I presetted a different element down here. And now I'm simply taking another transition type saying, okay, go. So this one will go to air over here, and the preset bus is advancing by one step. Go. Done. And the next one, making the zoom effect, taking this one and taking the scale effect, this one, and so on. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Now there's one more mode in here, in the scenes mode, and this is really kind of faking an automation. When you're really positive and everything works fine, you can also say, I want to have this as an endless loop. So this, now saying, I want to go from auto into, going from next into next and loop. So this will, as soon as it reaches the end, and I will go to the far end, 3 and 4. So let's say I'm on this position over here. So as soon as I now hit the cut button in the other menu, it auto advances to that position. And now doing this again. So input 32 will go on air. And the preset bus is already on the next cross point at the first level, which is on black again. So it restarts this from scratch. So hitting the cut button in another GUI here. And now we're starting all over again from here. Going to the shifted side, and you see that here. So keep going. Cut, 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 cut. Next segment. Cut, 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 and restart from scratch. Like this. So these are the differences between like swap mode, like any other switcher would do. So that's default mode. And other switches don't have any other mode. So I have the next mode, which will then finally end when it reaches the end of my crossbar of my source options. So I'm setting this selection up here, going here, and that's the final end. So it will not auto loop and start from scratch again. So if it's a continuous program which starts over and over again, next loop would be the one we're looking at. All clear? Good. Next step. Set this back to swap mode. So let's say on this scene, what we're looking at here at this moment, it's just a basic scene, nothing too special. With a background where I have all sorts of cross points, also scenes, other scenes to be part of my cross point selection. And in here, I want to put in a still. The still what I want to put in here is actually something which does not fit into my raster size of the scene. So when I'm looking at the fill and key thing, and there's a segment in here, it's called the ISE thing. I'm not sure if you can read this out. So I move hover the mouse over it, and you're going to see that the format on this still is 320 by 368 only. So obviously it will not match into a 1080p world. However, I will use this to be a source. Now, going to my scenes again and saying, instead of having the color circle in here, I want to use that still. So click on the source A for that layer, look in my still directory for fill and keys, and find this ISE thing, and I put this on. When I'm turning this thing on over here, and you guys don't see it at this moment, hold on a sec. So I'll put this onto my live view. You see, okay, this is how small it appears within my 1080p resolution of that scene. But what if, and I'm going to this layer over here, so I want to always make sure that this will going to fit into my scene resolution. I have another advanced setting in here, which is called the so-called layer advanced mode. What this thing is supposed to do, to use the best possible selection, or I'll leave it on auto. If I want to keep the size, I always want to keep it the way it was built originally. I picked the keep size item over here. So now, forget it, just always fit the scene, which will have the side effect that a fit scene also can cause in this element to stretch, changing the aspect ratio. So originally a circle will end up as an egg, something like this. So when I would change this into fit scene over here and let you see what effect this is going to be in my screen. So here is that GUI, the other GUI what I'm using here. So I'll go to my layer over here and select the advanced settings and change my auto selection into a so-called fit scene. And then you see that would be the effect. So it zooms into the maximal reach of the X and Y raster size. However, if I want to just make sure that I increase it to the maximum size, as soon as it touches the X boundary or the Y boundary, it will stop automatically. So I will take then the setting, which is called fit scene keep aspect. So I'll use that one over here. And I will show you that in detail in a second. So I'm pushing it up here. So as soon as it reaches the edge of the screen, it would stop the magnifying of that signal. Switching this back into my scenes menu, and that's what I just did. I was setting this, oops, wrong layer. I was setting this into a fit scene keep aspect setting. Right. So again, just to confirm, Kairos is independent on the input side in terms of resolution, and is also independent on the output side of resolution. So what you do actually when you program your show, you tell each and every scene, typically once you are in a setting and you create a new one, it will always start with an 90/20 1080 resolution, except if you tell the system go into the advanced resolution control and change the canvas size. So these are the settings from the layer. So I think we pretty much have that part covered. The source link area actually is something it's kind of hard to hard to explain, but I will give my best. Let's say layer number 3 can do a source link within the scene, saying if I need to duplicate a cross point, and that's what I have used this year during ISE, because I did a replay wipe and I needed the fill signal to be equivalent to my background program signal when I was routing it in. And here I will give you just the object and the way how I'm dealing with that within a layer, because it's easier to track. Saying on my layer number 3 over here, I want to source link this beast. Source link, so it will offer me all the other layers from this scene. So I want to source link this to layer number 2 over here, so it's been slaved by layer 2. So I'm going to layer number 2 and just simply switch the cross point. It will automatically make sure that the other cross point goes along with that. This can be used for multiple purposes, because I can have another 2D effect applied over here, a color correction over here, and switching here or dissolving here would automatically then force that this other layer goes along with it. That's the source link functionality within a layer to start with. So I'm disabling this function. I'm good with that. Now, another wonderful thing within the machine is actually something what we call the source substitution or output substitution. To do so, I will do a very simple example, hopefully. I will delete this window here and have main Kairos here, and here we'll put in another aux bus. Let me look up which aux bus we're going to use for that. Let's say I'm using aux 5 in here. Very simple. Or not using aux 10. Aux 10 is good too. Layout, and this is going to be my aux 10, aux bus, aux 10 in here. And I'm not using main Kairos any longer in here. Here I will use now something from my templates. I will use the two box effect in here, and aux 10 should also get the two box. Aux 10 also should get the two box element. So it looks similar when we check in the live view. So this is the program out of two box, and that is the aux 10 having this element enabled, but need to disable now the preview function here. Don't need the preview live view. Very simple, very easy, straightforward. Now let's have a look at the scene itself, the scene settings. Go to templates, go into toolbox, and I'm only interested actually in this element over here. So you see on my left box, I have an AB bus available, and program has input 1, and on preset I have the RAM recorder 5 selection in here. Nothing too special, and I can do the same thing also on this top right box over here, and here I have RAM 7, RAM 3, whatever. But now let's have a look at the aux 10. Going to the aux bus, aux 10. There's no effect in here whatsoever, but I want to put in an effect now, which is my so-called source substitution, which is at this moment is not enabled. So enable this, but there's no setting in at this moment, so it's an empty list. Don't worry. Come back to the scene situation over here, and within the scenes, let's consider I have to do a bilingual show or let's say I'm selling this program also to another channel, or I want to avoid a feedback loop because the camera one is shooting the monitor wall and I need to replace this thing. So there are several tasks what I can use this for. A so-called source substitution. So saying, okay, on ME1, I'm doing mix dissolve and graphics and whatnot, but when I'm switching to the helicopter, the beauty shot, and the other channel is not paying for the helicopter, they will get the wide angle shot, something like this, something basic, but not the beauty shot. Saying input number one is the beauty shot. And as soon as I'm wiping, dissolving, do whatever, it should be auto-replaced by it. Even another crosspoint as well, say also the PDZ head should go and to be replaced. Okay. Now let's do that. Say, coming back to my aux bus, aux 10, going to my source substitution, and I want to set up this table. Okay, so add the crosspoint I'm tracking. Going to my input. Input number one is the beauty shot. And the replacement for input number one is supposed to be one of my internal crosspoints. Let's say I want to put in a color circle instead. Or any other crosspoint, doesn't really matter. Let's say I want to put in a clip layer. Say put the clip layer in instead. Fine. And the PDZ head, which is input number 11, PDZ, is going to be replaced by clip layer 2. Clip layer 2. Okay, good. The order really doesn't matter at this point, but I can do this just for better organization. And these are the two crosspoints I need to replace. Cool. Okay. Now let's have a look again to my transition area, the transition of the toolbox. And saying I want to do a transition in here. Just a simple mix transition for the top left layer. Okay, so that's the action I'm going to press later on. I'm just dissolving here. This auto button I will press. Now let's have a look into my live view. So that's my main out, and that's my output substitution over here. And I will put in a new tile, actually. That was stupid me. FX GUI, that's good. So we'll delete this guy. And this one I'm going to drag some more to the center. And I will pick in my template folder, I will put the toolbox. So see the toolbox allocated in here. And I will check these cross points. So I will put you into live view. So put this up, saying, okay, I'm on input number 2 and input number 3. So it all works quite well. It's all good. But now the next preset cross point, I'm putting onto input number 1. And if I now address that I want to go and cut or affect or dissolve whatever I'm doing on this layer, on the top left box, I'm doing mix. And you see automatically it replaced this cross point to my clip layer. Cut this back, and I'm cutting, even a cut, doesn't really matter. Even when I'm doing a DV effect in here, so saying I'm setting up in the next GUI, I'm setting a DV scale effect and run this with a scale effect. So I'm automatically changing this on the output side. However, putting this back, so I determined that my input number 1 is one of the replacements, and my PDZ head is going to be replaced as well. So I'm going to my scenes again over here, that you can see this in a little better version. Next cross point in here is input number 1. It's on the substitution list. And top right, I will preset the PDZ instead. So I have a no-no situation when I'm doing a transition on both ends. So when I'm executing this transition here, top left and top right simultaneously. So I need to substitute two things at the same time. Coming back to the live view again. So the next cross point I'm feeding into the main feed has to be replaced automatically by the machine over here. And therefore, I will pick the transition menu and running this transition here. As you can see, it's hard for you guys to see this here over here. And I will do an auto trans, which is applying a DB transition to the effect. And even though this is an offset transition, as you notice this over here, one side on the other side, even though with an offset, I can do the replacements. And trying to manage the same thing on an ME switcher, that would cost you probably something like, I would say, at least 3 to 4 MEs just to build that. And the only thing what it requires on a GPU type of a system is making an output substitution. Done. So I don't have to couple ME blocks. I don't have to do substitution tables within the MEs. I don't have to take care about the transitions, the transition types and whatnot. It's all been mirrored, and all been copied, and all been treated by the GPU itself by simply applying a substitution table to my aux bus. So that's the only thing what I really did actually was to set up this table that input 1 is a no-go and been replaced with clip layer 1 and PDZ with clip layer 2, period. That's it.
I have one question. Okay.
Only one.
Only one. The source substitution is you have to add the effect, right? So it's not there from the beginning.
Only the source. Only the source. The only thing what I'm doing is saying, okay, input number 1 is a no-go on this output number 10. It has to be replaced with another source. And also the PDZ, regardless where it appears in that output, in layer 1, layer 10, layer 11, whatever, in the background, it's going to be replaced with that source. The effect itself actually derives from over here. So the effect, what I did was this effect here, this scale, this effect, that's what I was using. So I was running this auto trans on 2 box, saying make this scale on top right. And when it's almost finished, start with the next one and zoom that one in. The effect is on both sides, it's the same. On my program feed as well as on the substitution. I'm just replacing the crosspoint itself.
No, yeah, okay, but no, I mean in the aux bus settings, you have to click on add effect, right? So it's not there by default.
No.
You don't see the source substitution.
It's like this. Right? Typically, what is represented in here are just the basic effects. Typically, so there's way more shit in here what you can use, overlay, embossing, and whatnot. But in the main case, typically you need an output to route signals out to it. There's some extra stuff what we can apply to an output.
Okay.
By default, it's not here in the list. You just need to go to the drop-down menu here, to drop-up menu, and just apply the output substitution to it. And every output can have a different substitution list. So it's not that this is the one and only thing. So I can go in here, say, I need another add substitution and make another list in here. Yeah? Enable this and make a new table. Saying whenever it comes in with input number 1, let's say input 17, whatever, and replace input 17 with RAM channel number 3. Anything possible. Okay?
Yeah.
And delete the thing. So you notice here, also here, I do the route for the audio. So I apply the audio source to that thing. So it follows the video, whatever streams into it at this moment. I have a volume control over here. I have a gain control over here. And I can also shuffle the outputs according to this matrix. I think that's pretty much it from here. So we'll delete this output section as well. And now finally, before we enter into macros, I want to give you a brief overview on what we can do on the control panel. And that is really something. Okay. In my lower segment down here, and I'm just using not the physical control panel at this moment, I'm just using the GUI in here. That's good enough for now, but I will show you the same effect, how I can treat this on the physical control panel. So you see down here, I have on my deck B, the scene is called main Kairos, and I'm looking at layer 1. So I can also look at any other layer on my deck B, so the layer could be any other of my layers over here. And on my deck A, right now, it says something strange, studio layer 2, the preview, whatever. So what I did to deck A actually is that I'm running here a function which is called the smart delegation. And with smart delegation, I can determine that whatever I'm using down here, it's been automatically unfold when I'm coming to something what is not a straight input. So let's consider I'm going to a situation, and you guys know this already. I'm going to my scene called Kairos. Remember that one, right? So when I'm picking on my preset side, Kairos, so the entire effect's been unfolded to this upper segment. So you see Kairos over here with the program preset, cross point. Then you can change what layer you want to control. And you can also tell the system, you know what, I'm not interested when it's on preview. I want to have this on program. So now when I'm switching this to program, it will change and apply and unfold the elements according to my selection on program side. That is the so-called smart delegation. Deck A and disable smart delegation again. And now you see it's not here anymore. Now, doing the same thing using my panel simulation to simulate what's been visible or visualized on the control panel. So I would do pretty much the same thing over here. But before we go to that segment over here, let me introduce what are the other controls on my control panel and what I can apply to it. Now, going to my GUI over here and picking up the menu, the control panel. Now you see at this moment in the upper segment over here, I have main and Kairos. That could be any other thing. So I can go in here, say I want to have in my deck A here, I want to have any other of my scenes listed. So I want to have in here my ME1 for whatever reason. So then this thing here will show me whatever is on ME1. And here I want to see my ME2. So I'm going to my deck 2, the segment over here, and I want to set a scene and make this a set delegation and make this my ME2. Another way how to do that. So, and smart delegation's been disabled. So that was the reason why it was grayed out here. So here I have ME1, here's ME2. I can flip this around, I can put anything into any location, no big deal. But what if saying, it's not only that I want to have ME1 down here, I want to have the purpose or the ability to control as many MEs as I want. And also in that order, the way I want them to have. So going to my deck 1, which is highlighting this section down here, saying I have source options. There's nothing in at this moment. Say, okay, so what do I want to have in here? Say I want to have all my templates in here. So the folder with the templates. Let's check this out. So what is this templates folder? So these are all scenes within that container called templates over here. 2 box, frontal, side shot, 4 box and whatnot. Saying I want to have this also located like this. I want to have the OTS next, and I want to have the OTS right over here. And I want to have this one all the way to the end and have the side shot even more at the end. Sidecar one up. So that's the orientation I want to have in this container. Now again, at this moment, I'm on ME1. What more source options? Let's say I want to have more things. I want to have all my MEs in here for whatever reason. And I also want to have just a straight scene in here. It's my main Kairos scene over here. And that's pretty much everything what I need to have. That's it. Now, how do I access this? When I'm going to my control panel over here, let's go and zoom this in a little bit. The important buttons actually are the buttons here on the right over here. So you see, probably, hopefully, let's zoom that in a little more. You see, right now, this is on ME1, according to this setting here, ME1 in here. That's the scene where I am right now. But let's say, for whatever reason, I want to have Kairos mapped to that segment down here. So I have to zoom out a little more. You can see the selections. Now, it's a little harder to operate this now with a mouse. So when I click and hold, you see how this thing is flipping over. When I lose the left mouse click, this thing is also dropping back. When I use the right mouse click instead, it's going to go into a latch mode. So I can now move the cursor around, that you see what's going on. Now, since I'm on ME1, ME1 consists of a background A, background B, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's a functionality split, as a function delegation. Now, when I press on delegate over here, nothing happened. Use the latch mode here as well. So when I'm pressing on this button here, that's a temporary selection. And now I can say, you know what, I want to have my the main Kairos over here. And I'll leave that and click on this. And now you see all of a sudden, I have main Kairos select over here, whereby this is my background A bus, and here's my background B bus. Up here, again, see now, okay, there's no layer selected at this moment. Let's say here from my Kairos scene on my delegation, I want to see here my layer 1 of Kairos. So we're going in here saying layer 1 and drop this. So this is now main Kairos layer 1 on the upper bus. And here on this delegation, I want to have the layer 2 for whatever reason. Just that you get the idea. And now from here on, you see here on Kairos, this is my layer 1 delegation. This is my layer 2 delegation. Here's how I would actually organize that work. Now, what if we make this a little more specific? Saying, I don't want to delegate Kairos. I actually want to delegate the toolbox in here. So this toolbox on this button here, I want to have the toolbox located on this crossbar. So now everything is delegated now into toolbox. The toolbox has only these two backgrounds. So two clips, the background loop and another background loop item from the RAM memory. And this bus here is toolbox top left A, and this is toolbox top left B. So that's an AB bus situation for the toolbox. Now, on the live view over here, I can't show you the live view for this for the moment. Saying, what if the left portion, this left portion until the center here, I want to split the upper bank into half to make this section here the top left AB bus, make this section up here the top right bus AB. Okay, now I click on this again. So I want to split the upper segment here, and I click on split. And I want to do the same thing down here. I want to split this piece too. And now this becomes a 2-box top left A, 2-box top left B. And again, click this one here, over here. Hold on. A little helpful. What am I doing here? Now, clicking on this one again and clicking on this one again. Now you see the right segment here. And let's close this here. Okay. 2-box top left A, 2-box top left B. 2-box top left A, 2-box top left B. Here I want to have a different control. So I'm going to the control here, I launch the delegation part, delegation, click on the delegation. Here actually I want to have the, oops, that was too far. Click this again. I want to have the top left A in that segment, top left A here. And here I want to have the top left B here. Top left A, top left B. And I do here, delegate. I want to have the top right A in this bus. And here I want to have the top right B under that bus. And now I have full control on my crosspoint sections. And I'm switching this here to my controls. I'm switching here under this control. So here I'm controlling crosspoint wise program and preset, top left box. And here's crosspoint wise top right program and preset bus to the top right box. Now, how can I share this the best? That's not so simple. I will find a solution. Do I find a solution? I find a solution. So let me go into the live view here again. So down here, let me put in I need another control deck here. Sorry, wait a sec. I'm with you. Running the control panel from over here. So the only thing what I need to do, even this virtualization level, I need to establish the connection over IP. So I'm entering the IP address in this segment. We can visualize this. So connected. And now you see the 2-box effect in my multi-viewer, and see down here, see my crosspoint selections. And when I'm taking the mouse now from here, sorry, and I'm switching over here. So I'm switching on the left box, program and preview if I want to, let's say color A, color B, and color C in here. And on the right side, selecting this one over here. So I want to have the PDZ head over here. So it's my PDZ in here and input number 1 on the preset side over here. And these are the control points what I'm having. And the next thing I'm going to do is just driving my transitions. When I'm looking at my transition section of my 2-box element over here. So I have a left box, I have a right box, or can do even both at the same time. So use the auto trans, which has an offset in here as well. And seeing that split segment actually goes with that window, and that segment goes with that window. Running my transition from the next GUI over here, and then you see how I'm doing this over here. There's a small little bug, so I'm not seeing the highlight of the cross point in here, this simulation here at this moment, but that's going to be fixed as well. In the control panel, you see the highlights with everything. You see the highlights, no light tally when it's in progress and whatnot. It's just not here on that simulation. Let me restart my Kairos thing here. Too many mouses, too many screens. And running this element here. So I'm wondering why I'm not seeing that screen anymore. Oh, that's why. No, taking the screen again. So I broke it, I guess. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing the screen here anymore. Hello. Seeing the screen here. I'm not seeing the screen here. FX GUI. Layout. I've seen it here. Good enough. Yeah, deactivated. Killing me. Starting my GUI here, and you see it's very quick start. So I'm good to go. Now that was actually the thing when we're dealing with the layout of the control panel of the machine here, and restarting my simulation path again and reconnect IP, connect 128.40.50 connection done, and scrolling to the left. And again, here you see now this environment, how I'm doing this splitting of a segment. And again, if it would be a 4-box, I could treat the lower left segment also to split this here in half, say, okay, this is top left, this is top right, this is bottom left, and this is bottom right, and split this here in half as well. So I have full A/B control over 4 boxes. And then I would line up also, of course, my transition, saying, okay, this is top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right transition. How I can deal with that.
How many times can you split?
It doesn't make sense to split more than one time, because otherwise the segment gets too small. If I split this again in half, you always need the shift level and need the delegation button. Yeah. So when I split this here, right, so that would be my next split segment. So I would lose these 2 buttons. I would have 4 cross points left. 4 cross points for each side. Mm-hmm. But there are plannings in the pipeline also make this possible to split this again. At this moment, you can only split it once. Okay, coming back to the GUI again and going to the control panel. So what more is in here? So one is which MEs are available, which source options are available in here. And remember my source options, the templates, my MEs, and main Kairos. And when we're looking this up in the control panel segment here and going all the far way to the right, and I hit the button here and go into the delegation, latch this and go into delegate, then you see the 2-box, 4-box, OTS left, OTS right, title, sidecar, frontal, side shot. So this was everything from the templates folder. ME123 is everything from my MEs folder, and main Kairos at the final. This is how they're appearing here in that order. It's exactly the way I'm doing the source optioning in here. The templates container, MEs container, main. And when we're looking at the scenes over here again, templates were all of these scenes, MEs, ME123, and finally main Kairos. That's the way how they're putting this into order, how they should appear here. And again, even my source option, if I change, I might say main Kairos should be at the far front. So I can simply move this to the far front if I needed to. Also with the ME saying I want to push this around and take this to another order, always doable, right? Cancel, discard, good. Now one more thing, actually, and therefore I want to put on just a straight ME into this bank at this moment. So I'm going in here, I want to have my ME1 for whatever reason, just put ME1 on it, good enough. Now looking at the layout of the panel over here, so ME1 layer 1, layer 2, background A, background B, all good. If I go more far to the right, so you see already here, these are my default transitions. Let's have a look at my default transitions. One in here, in my transitions, you see on my ME1, when you look at the ME1, see, okay, background AB, mix, 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 mix. So I tried to think up front because my director didn't tell me. I tried to think up front, saying I want to have a certain order and a certain thing for my transitions in here. Saying, okay, my background, I want to have a situation where I go with a regular mix. That's good enough. Let's say the layer 1, which is my CG, is a simple, let's say, DV transition and push it up and push it down. Good enough. In my layer 2, I want to wipe this thing left and right. And this one here, I want to wipe this on and off, top down, over here. And this here maintains a regular mix. Nothing too special. So we'll be looking again at the transition area over here. So these are the transitions, what I'm looking at. Let me zoom in just briefly. Then we'll see what's going on here. Let's see, okay, there's a regular mix. There's a push down, there's a wipe left, wipe top, regular mix. But what if the director is changing his mind, saying, okay, could we not do the push down effect on the background, for instance, or the scale effect or whatever effect? And therefore, we have another segment within the panel menu over here, which means the so-called transition type override. Okay, now transition type override, let me delete this all out over here, saying I need to have a plan B for my background transition. The background transition at this moment in here is a regular mix. So let's say I want to do here a white flash, a mix over white. So we'll have a plan B and put the transition type override in here. So I want to put in a transition here coming from mixes, mix via white. Okay. And to be honest, as another cool effect, I would love to see a DV effect in here as well, saying DVE, want to do a scale effect also. And I also want to apply another DV effect, zoom. And I want to do another wipe effect, actually, just for sake, do a circle wipe for whatever reason. And keep going, you just fill that up, fill that order up. So what can I do with that? Coming back to my control panel and see some placeholders up here. Let's fill this up. So what more can we do here? Say do another wipe, star wipe, and another DVE. Oh, let's do a replay wipe, light beam. And another one is so something special here. Replay wipe mask. This one, just to give it something. And another one, wipe mix over black. Just give it some numbers. That's good enough. And come back. And now all of a sudden you see they're all filled up here in that list. So we have a mix via white, scale, zoom, wipe circle, wipe star, light beam, replay wipe, mix via black. And let's zoom this out here, that we see the idea. So when I'm running my transition here in my background, that would be just a regular order transition, just a simple order transition, which is also at this moment using the transition duration rate, which is applied to that element over here. Let's say I want to change this here, make them all a little smaller, it's better transmission then. Make this 50, and this one I want to make 50, let's say, why not making this 40? and making this 60. And this one we make 30. And this we want to make 70. So all different transition types. 50, 40, 60, 30, 70 frames. So that's how they would be launched when I run the auto transition button from each and every transition component, from background up to layer 4. When I click on this item over here, which is kind of hard, you don't see that here in this menu appearing, but when I'm doing this on the control panel itself, I will pop up the transition to apply the transition duration rate. So when I click this over here, nothing's going to change, I think. It's now changing also. So you see that this is my background mix here. Okay, and pressing and holding this here will also change in. That was the other duration, and so on and so on and so on. So I see that duration here as well. On top of this, I have a separate transition duration for over here, because imagine you would do the next transition bit is background, this layer 1, layer 2, and layer 3, right? So in the control panel now they are all selected. So the background until layer number 4. So here again, the highlight is not managed here within that software, but they are now all selected. And now I would use the transition duration rate just from this lever arm, because now they need to run all in parallel to overrule the original transition duration rate for each and every component. So now this. Let's say when I'm doing the auto transform over here, this auto trans simply now would do a mix, the background mix, the way it was supposed to be done. Now, in this transition over here, when I enable this override, now this is highlighted in the control panel. This is low light tele. These buttons are all low light tele. This is highlight tele right now on the control panel. Now, when I run this from over here, this thing would do straight a auto mix via white transition. Let's put this into my screen here as well, because otherwise you cannot track this anyhow. I'm going to my layout, and I'm putting in my MEs, ME1, put this in here, put here ME1 in as well, MEs, ME1, and set this to preview, look ahead preview. And now we'll also go into my control page. Then we see also the controls from down here. So we'll put in my deck B. I'll delegate this to be on my ME1. ME1. Okay. Okay. Now you see these controls here as well. Coming back to my control panel. So this is the display, what you see inside the control panel. And on this menu over here, you don't see this display here at all. So it's a minor version, a lighter version of a control panel. So you see not all the bells and whistles actually. Again, now this button here is activated. I know for you hard to see, but I tell you this button now lit in my control panel. The rest is in low tele, and I'm doing a temporary override, and I'm doing a white flash over here. The way how this looks like over at this moment when I'm running this transition, and I'm using this auto transform over here. That's what I'm going to do. Going to my live view, layout and live view. And we should also have other cross points here located. Hold on a sec. Go to my control, say I want to have my input 1, input 2, and say input 4. And putting this back into live view. And now I see that's my input number 1, input number 4. And I'm hitting the auto trans button down here. When I find this in my next scenario over here in my next GUI, too many GUIs. And use my ME1 over here and go for my transitions, actually my control, and run this auto trans. And now, since I've enabled an overruling within that segment over here, remember this button lit, so I'm doing an auto mix via white. Now just say, you know what, fuck it, take the scale instead. So it's a scaling DVE effect to overrule what is programmed into this transition. Running this auto trans button over here again. So I'm running this auto trans here in that segment, and this is supposed to run with a DVE effect. So I'm doing a DVE as a temporary override. If I would press this button, I would take the transition the way it's programmed into the background, which is a regular mix. So running this button from over here becomes a regular mix button. But running the auto transform over here or use the lever arm instead, so I can also grab the lever arm and run this lever arm to run this thing manually. So I'm running at this moment a scaling effect, which is enabled at this moment here under this button. Or using a zoom instead. There, so we do the zoom. So it's a zoom into position. Or doing a wipe circle to make it even more obvious. Enable this part. And then I'm running, oops, shit. This one. Zoom. Using this wipe star. Oops, I turned it off again. Hard to track this up here. And now I'm doing this wipe star thing. Now I determine, you know what, I need a different duration rate just for this guy. So I press this guy, say I want to run the 100 frame duration. Okay. And switching this back, now I have 100 frame duration on the lever arm. So it's running 100 frames, or even again, grab the slider, grab the thing, and you see that the fader is moving, so I move it with another mouse cursor and just drag it this way. So it's a temporary override to my program transitions, which is, I think, extremely powerful. So this is what this line is indicating. What are my plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J plans for my next transition bits? Just to get you this idea as well, saying, okay, let's have a look back to the Kairos thing and going into the scene of MU1. And now I will enable in here for my layer 1, I will enable a B side to it. So I'm going to color B and color C later on. So I'm going to my advanced settings and enable the preset side for this layer and just simply do some color A, color B, not more, nothing too special. And this is sitting in here. Now, when we're looking at the transition area, and you remember for my layer 1, I have a on-off transition only selected at this moment. So this is an on-off segment with the DVE pushed down. And the way that looks like at this moment, when I'm going to the live view again, when I'm running this auto trans from down here. So that's the original segment. So I'm just as a push down kind of an element. Almost looks like a wipe, but actually it is a wipe. Push down is an element. Actually, it's a DVE. Let's say I'll make this more obvious. Make this a zoom effect here. Make it a squeeze effect. Probably that's a little better. That's hard to see. It's really hard to see in the menu here in the GUI. What more? I'm an idiot. That's on off. I need this one over here. Push down. Make this. That's going to be easily visible then. Seeing it all. Too much GUI is going on here. Trust me, guys. So now we're talking. So when I'm running this effect over here, I'm going to see that's even wilder. Not going to work on these cross points. I need other cross points here. Color input 1, input 4. I will use this then instead. To make more sense, that makes more sense. Okay, now we share the live view again. So in the live view, when I'm running this as the original transition, which I just applied to it, So you see I'm moving with the DVE the entire segment. Okay. Now, checking this in my control panel. So I'm highlighting this layer number 1 and going back, next transition on background. You see, that's the only thing what is available right now. On background, so I can still override with all of these different transitions because the in-outs and the A-B transitions are all identical in use. Now going to my next segment, layer 1. And now the system is asking me by highlighting all these buttons, so they are low, not completely dark gray like these, so they are on low tally on the control panel at this moment. And now I can determine, is this becoming an in-out segment over here? In-out with a scale. Now override this transition here. Instead of doing a push down, I'm doing a scale, but I'm scaling it out. So it becomes an on-off transition rather than an A-B transition. Now I run this auto trends over here and let you see what's happening next. And I'm running this auto trends over here. So it's a zoom out or a zoom in, depending on if the key is going on or going off. So just to get you the idea. So those are in low tally. This one is the highlighted one because I determined that this is not anymore an A-B transition for layer 1. This is becoming now a on-off transition. Now changing this into being an A-B. Now change this to A-B. Let's say I want to wipe now between input 4 and input 1 and using a circle wipe. So overrule this with a circle wipe over here. And now I'm running the transition again. This auto over the lever arm, doesn't matter. And then you see it's a circle wipe as a temporary override. So that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen on transitions, doing switches. So you can program transition types into it, but you can also always temporary override these segments. Whenever you press the auto transition button from the isolated source down here, it will do the transition the way it was programmed into it. But up here with the A-B or on-off transition, you can always temporarily override what you meant to have done before to the original layer. I know that is rough in all see that in theory, but as soon as you get the system, you're welcome to play with. So one more little segment in here. Actually, that's what I was introducing this morning. And you probably remember this. Let me maximize my screen here. To the far right side. And again, whatever I can control to this joystick up here, make this a little smaller. Whatever I can control with that joystick over here. So see, the control panel right now has ME2 and ME1. So these are the two MEs, what I'm seeing. There are elements available for effects inputs, and there's a PDZ head available. So I'm clicking on this. It's input number 11 at this moment. I'm clicking on this, and now I would use the joystick in order to change the controls over here. Now, disabling this, disabling that. Now, my MEs 1 and 2, they don't have, I think, any control available at this moment because I didn't apply anything to it when I'm looking to my scene controls, but I will fake something now, just that you get the idea. So saying on my input number, on my layer number 1, I will do a transform 2D setting. On my layer number 2, I will enable a crop setting. On my layer number 3, I will do a corner pin, a transform, and a crop. And on ME2, on layer number 1, I will do another transform 2D, just for sake. So now I'm coming back, and now let's see what we can delegate. Remember, ME1 and ME2. ME1, everything on input number 1 with all of these different settings, right? So I have different sections available in here. Now saying, going to my ME1. Now ME1 is indicating, okay, you have selections available for the background for layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4. So I can then go to layer 1. On layer 1, there's only transform 2D available. So now I can use the transform 2D, activate this, and now it's being treated by the joystick. Layer 2, has crop available, and layer 3 has crop, transform 3D, transform 2D, and corner pinning available. So these would be the different controls I can use in order to assign the correct controls to the spot here. And let's say I want to leave this layer number 3 out of ME1. I want to leave this on transform 2D. And I'm going straight from here, further down in that tree. I'm going to ME2. ME2 on layer 2, there's nothing. Layer 1, transform 2D. Fine. So it's activated. So now I want to flip back and forth between ME1 layer 1, between ME2 layer 1 and ME1 layer 3. So I simply switch from here to here, and the system will remember the last selection as long as I haven't disabled it for that specific layer. This was still active. Turn this off, turn this layer off, turn this selection off. Okay? Good. So we'll do another small break, and then finally we will end up in all the rest, which means macros, triggers, and applications. Does it sound like a plan?
Elge, just one question.
Only one.
Yeah, only one, I know. About the temporary override you explained.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I think you mentioned at the last time. What's the difference between the auto button on the T bar, below the T bar,
Yeah.
or the auto buttons below each button?
Okay. Now, that's probably the easiest when I show it this. When I show you that over here. Go to that control over here, right? Now, this actually determines my next selection in terms of look ahead preview, right? So let me change this here. Gotta go and look this up. Wait a second, I need to fix this here. Fix the segment here. Transform settings. Transform 2D. Oops, I'm not rotating. Shift this, make it smaller, and just put it upper right corner. Put this here, transition. This is supposed to be an on-off. I'll just make it a simple mix, good enough. Okay. Now going to my scene control over here, and let's say in the background of my ME1, I have color B and color C, and this is disabled. This is how it looks like at the moment. So we have a background, and I have over-the-shoulder box in the upper right corner. Nothing too special. The transitions I have made up at this moment are just simple transitions. So background is an A-B mix. Layer 1, the over-the-shoulder box is an on-off mix. That's the white mix, which we're not looking at. We're not looking at these layers. We're just looking this and this one, period. Now, going into my live view over here, then you see this is how it looks like at this moment. This is ME1 program, and this is ME1 preview, whereby preview is considered to be a so-called look ahead preview. This is how it's been abbreviated, LAH, look ahead preview. So it means my next transition bit down here is looking for background only. So if I now would do a transition with a lever arm, or with cut or with auto, this is going to be my resulting image, right? So this cross point here, which is my color C, will be replaced in the background. So just hit this cut button down here. That will then check this and cut this over. Use the auto button instead. Will auto trans with the transition for it at this moment. Take this out. That would be then a simple mixed transition just for the background. No big deal. This button is considered on every ME switcher to be the so-called next transition button. What I want to apply to my next transition. So I want to next transition should be only have this layer number 1, which is the over the shoulder box. So when I'm changing this over to that point, you will see that's what you're going to see next. And then now you do a transition, that's going to be your result for that. because this is an on-off transition. Remember, this transition for here is an on-off transition. When I'm doing this order trans, when I'm doing this transition over here, I will take this transition out, doing this, and run this auto trans or use the lever arm, up to you, or use the cut button. So that's my corresponding output to it. Now, if I decide my next transition actually should change the background and also enable this layer, so I would click this one and enable this one as well. This auto button will only treat the background, and the cut button will only treat the background. This will only treat the layer on and off.
Okay.
And this transition here is treating what is enabled for the next transition bits. There could be even more transitions like here. Now if I cut this over here, use the cut button, so you will see I'm cutting to swap this out, or auto trans, or even use the lever arm doing this. So these next transition bits are typically responsible in order to create your look ahead preview. Shows you what will be on air after using the lever arm, the cut or auto trans. If I treat this button here, I would simply on and off that layer. I run this effect over here, so I run this layer. Now the layer is on. Of course, it will now change my look ahead preview. Make sense?
Yeah.
Good. This is not rocket science. This is the same thing on every, it is supposed to be the same thing on every ME architectured switcher. We would just be making the same behavior here. Okay?
Okay.
Cool. Now I would say I will stop this session here, and we'll put in my segment up here. Okay, I will stop sharing this thing here. And I would say 4 o'clock, we continue.
Yeah.
And then we finally go into macros and triggers and whatnot, and applications, and to round this all up. See you in 15 minutes.
Okay.
Ta-da.